welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things Magic flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann, and today I'm going to have on the show with me Matt from TOTALmtg, talking about his favourite flavour and the kind of style of which he plays. We'll get to that. I just wanted to take a moment beforehand, before we move into Streets of New Capenna, which is the new set coming up, and I think actually today, is it today? I'm recording this little intro bit on the 28th. I think the story articles are about to drop for New Capenna, which is incredible. Firstly, it's wonderful that they're doing the story articles before the main set release still, or at least that's what it seems like. Obviously, they did this for Kamigawa, and yeah, absolute barnstorm of a decision. Well done again for keeping it going. But I just wanted to hang around in Kamigawa just a little bit longer, because I feel there's maybe an unsung contingent of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that hasn't really been highlighted. I just wanted to talk just for a few minutes about it today, and that's the basic lands. And I'm not talking about the super fancy, beautiful looking Japanese art style full art lands that we got, which, I mean, are visually stunning. I love them. I'm going to be picking up any amount of them that I can find. No, I'm going to be talking about the humble, basic lands, because I feel with each new set that's coming out, and each new sort of cycle of full lands, we know we're going to get full art lands again for New Capenna, and all these different art styles that they're trying to evoke in all the new sets. Some people are decrying the sort of reduced specialness of the full art lands, and I can understand that logic. I'm not saying that I don't see it, and I'm not even necessarily saying that I don't agree, but I'm also happy that they are bringing new art styles into the game. But with all these new full art lands, I kind of feel like the basics are getting underrepresented, and Neon Dynasty had some of the most beautiful basic lands I think we've had for a long time. And I say that almost every set, because I kind of feel like from I almost said Lorwyn then, and then I almost said Strixhaven. What am I thinking of? Eldraine, Throne of Eldraine. I kind of feel like the basic land game has been upped and upped and upped, and especially the physical cards, the foiling that I've seen from Eldraine has been absolutely fantastic. And I just wanted to talk about these lands, because there are two of each one. So there's 2 forests, 2 swamps, 2 plains, 2 mountains, 2 islands. I didn't do that in Wooburg order. That felt really wrong. One half of the lands have been taken by artist Peter Jura, and the other half by Adam Kett. And the reason they've got 2 of each is because they're showing the kind of ebb and flow of Kamigawa as a character, as how we know it. So we know, obviously, that the Kami and the spiritual side has had a massive influence on the plane since OG Kamigawa, and indeed is a huge part of the story and the narrative of the plane as we see it today. But also the technology and the cyberpunk stuff is where they've really tried to push this theme in everything that they've done. And what I love about these 2 land cycles is that you have one half, so you have one of each basic, showing the more naturalistic, Kami-led, I'm going to say, side of the plane, with, you know, lush foliage and like the natural order of things still being sort of very present. And then the other half of the land, so that was the Peter Jura cycle, and then the Adam Kett cycle of the basics shows the more technologically advanced, built-up areas of Kamigawa, like the city centres and the moonfolk sort of strongholds and the built-up areas. And I kind of feel like basic lands as a visual mechanic, if you like, are really the backbone of any given set. They really set the scenery, because they are the literal battlefield, the literal land that you put everything else on. Something I want to highlight as well in the artworks for these is that they've obviously tried to go for, you know, both sides of the coin, but a really strong decision by the artistic creative team, the artistic direction team, is to have both halves of this basic land cycle still have sort of themes of the other. So, for example, in the Kami-led cycle, you still have the neon-lit pathways through the forest on the forest card, or the neon bridge going over the river in the island. And although the Kami are still there, it's almost like the technology of modern Kamigawa is enhancing the natural landscape in these particular lands. And then on the flip side, on the more built-up Adam Kett lands, you still have the nature aspects poking through in the city. So, for example, in the forest, Adam Paquette Forest, you have all the pipes and all the sort of signs of industry and glowing lights. And then the central of this, very reverently placed, is a tree that's still growing really nice and prominently. In the plains, you still have rock formations amongst the giant sort of reservoir pools. Is there reservoir pools? I don't know. What are they? Big landing pads? Ooh. I don't know. But you still have the rocks poking through the more built-up areas. And in the swamp as well, you have this incredible... I mean, I think the swamps are my favourite, actually, from both of them. But in the Adam Paquette swamp, you have the sort of super glossy high street, sort of Tokyo neo-city landscape, but with cherry blossoms still being a prominent and almost enhancing aspect of that artwork. And it reminds me a lot of the Eldraine lands, because in the Eldraine lands, you had 4 in each cycle. Which, when did we stop getting that? I think it was around Kaldheim we stopped getting multiple lands per basic. Because they had the snow, didn't they? So they had 2 snow lands per basic and then a regular basic. Interesting. Okay, we've definitely reduced the amount of artwork put on there as well, which is something of a shame. But in Eldraine, you had 4 of each cycle, and you had 2 of each showing the realms and the wilds, but also in much subtler ways, I feel. So, for example, in a lot of the realm cards, it was still like, the mountain is a mountainous area, the plains are plains and fields, but you would have, say, a banner or an insignia of whatever kingdom was represented in that realm card. And then in the wilds cards, again, it was almost like it was part of the same world, but instead of those insignias, you had the sort of glowing orbs, the kind of magical fireflies, if you like, that represented the wilds, which was never really made too much of in the actual narrative of the story, but was definitely a visual thematic that they tried to impart. So I just wanted to take a moment and give credence to these lands, because also in deck building, like, people know, if they've been listening to the show, they've seen me and Nathan on Twitter, they know that we're big basic land people. And indeed, we try to theme a lot of our basic lands to our EDH decks, as many people do. And whereas before, I used to always try and go for, I want to go for the feel of the land for my commander, as opposed to necessarily just doing the plane. I actually feel like I'm rolling back on that. And I do feel like matching your commander, if you can, to the plane which they come from, and then picking the lands from that plane that you think best match your commander's setting, just ties a whole deck together when you're playing. And that's not just limited to EDH, especially if you're playing something like Limited or Standard. You can absolutely do that, and indeed it's very fun to do it, because it gives your deck a different look every single time a rotation comes around. So yeah, unsung heroes of Neon Dynasty, I think the basic lands. Really, really love the fact that they gave one artist like a whole cycle, if you like, of each basic one, and I hope that that's how they continue to do it in the future. Anyway, enough about basic lands. Here's my chat with Matt. And today, we've got a very special guest on the show. We have Matt from TOTALmtg. You're right, Total. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. How are you, Andy? You right?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's a beautiful day here in London. You're not in London, are you? You're
I'm over near Towcester way, so out in the country.
Yeah, right.
I was out at 7:30 this morning, actually walking around the fields, and me and the wife went for a long walk. Did about 5k this morning. That's not a regular thing. Don't worry about that.
Sounds horrific.
It was like, well, I'm trying to get a bit healthy, so it's like smoothies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Since we moved there, it's such beautiful countryside. We just go for walks, stuff like that.
Oh man, no, I'm a city boy through and through. I think the only reason I'd walk 5k is to go to a coffee shop. I think that's why I do.
Yeah. Well, usually, it'd be me for a McDonald's, to be honest. But I was like, no, now I'm seeing, cows in fields that way instead. So
I mean, whatever. It sounds good. How did we had Storm Eunice and then Storm Franklin? Was it we got hit double hit?
So yeah, that was quite scary, because obviously we just purchased the house, we just moved. And then just kept hearing tiles on top of the roof and stuff like that. And no, we survived. Everything was all right here. Thank God. I know a lot of people around here lost fences and stuff like that. And I think the worst I got was the bin blew over. So,
well, we had a neighbour's tree crash into our back garden.
Oh,
but it is what it is. There was actually very minimal damage done, but we were like, huh, okay, cool. That's we don't really get storms in the landmass of the UK. It's only like really
No.
on the coast. So yeah, that was a pretty big deal, really.
Yeah, I mean, I went out for I had to pop to the shops a couple of times to get a few supplies and stuff like that, and literally, even and I'm a big lad, you know what I mean? I was like nearly Mary Poppins. I was like flying in the air. It's like I never thought, I got to the shop in like less time. I think because the wind was literally just blowing me there. So it was it was a scary time, but yeah, we got all through it, didn't we? So.
Yeah. I was out buying Kamigawa product because it was literally on release day when I went out, and I was like, I'm going to my shop, I'm getting my bundle, I don't care. And I was like, oh no, this was a mistake. As soon as I left the house, I was like, no Magic product is worth this.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, I actually went to the first time going to a new LGS on the Saturday. So I met up with Patreon, first time meeting up with them, and they're friends as well. It's really weird, like Patreon turning to friends, and I met up with Kitchen Table Games and their dad and the brother, and we played Commander like
Oh, nice.
all day. It was so good. And then in the evening, I was on a Commander stream as well, so it was literally Commander Day. It really was.
Yeah, for sure.
First time in paper I've played probably for not paper. Well, I played Spell Table, but in person before even the lockdown happened. So I didn't really have a decent LGS before that. So talking 4 years, probably 4 years.
Wow, that's a big time.
Long time, mate. And I was so buzzed up I couldn't sleep the next night. I was, when you just like you had such a good day, and you're like, I played so much Commander, and I was just like, yeah, that was it. I was up for like the whole night.
Yeah, I need to make an effort, man. Like, I think so. We had like 3 lockdowns in the UK. We had the big one with the big 6-month one, like back in like 2020, and then we had those 2 like lockdowns, which were about maybe like 2 months apiece, didn't we? And there were little gaps in between. So I think the last time I played in-person paper was at Rule Zero in London, which I talk about a lot of the time, which is like my sort of LGS. It's like one of the UK's like really nice Gucci ones. And I played. It was me, Nathan, Tim Willoughby, and I think another one of the shop guys. And that was in the 3rd lockdown, and I think that was the first time I played Paper Magic in person for like about a year before that as well. But so I've only had one in the past 2 or 3 years. But they have opened up Sundays. I can't go on the other day during the week, but I work Wednesday to Saturday. And my Saturdays are 13 to 14 hour shifts doing live events. So on Sunday, I'm like, can I even shuffle a deck? Can I even physically pick one up?
Get out of bed.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're recording this at 11 a.m. I woke up about half an hour ago. I'll be honest with you. I've got this giant like vat of coffee in front of me. Cool. Well, I mean, we're here to talk about like Magic and you. Like you were one of the first creators. Like I might have told you this. I don't want to embarrass you, but when we first started up as a podcast, you were one of the first creators that we kind of like bumped into in the sort of creator sphere, and you've given us as a podcast so much support and like having us on your streams or giving us advice on things like when we did like little YouTube videos or just how to navigate this sort of space, that I can't believe that we've never spoken to you more like in a larger sphere. And obviously like Nathan's not here right now because he's off on his travels, so it's a shame that he didn't get to talk to you, but it's quite incredible. And what's even more incredible, I was thinking about this morning, is that we don't do any of the same content creation. Like
not at all.
Not in function or form or anything. The only thing that binds us together is this game and the format of Commander, which we both love. Obviously, you play like many different formats. Like I kind of stick to Commander and Draft and Bit Limited. And I had to get you on. Much like this episode will be out after my episode with Adam the Gathering. So if you've listened to that, you'll know. Like I spoke to him about very similar things, where it was like, I want to know from people who don't have exactly the same like approach to my game, like what their flavor and lore loves in this game are, because it's Magic. Like you have to have something. So like, how do you engage with this game, man?
Well, that's the thing. So I've been probably doing Magic content, I reckon, for about 7 years now. 6 or 7 years it's going on, and still I like live and breathe. I go to bed, I think of decks. I think of this. I'm constantly building decks. I've got 34 Commander decks without my precons.
Wow.
I play a deck. I see a new Commander. I want to build it. I start building again and stuff like that. But Magic for me is more of an escape to. It started off as a hobby. Then it started off as like. I had some, I wouldn't say hobbies. I had some interests that weren't the best of interests, and Magic sort of pulled me in, and then it sort of got me on a steady track.
Yeah.
which is what good. And then, like you say, start to meet people. It's a great way to meet everyone, and like I met yourselves, and it's lovely to hear that what you said, like helping out and stuff like that.
Yeah, for
That's a
sure.
part of thing which I like doing. That's what I really, I get a few people say that, and it's still quite humbling to hear stuff like that. Because I'm not the biggest, I'm not the best. I've got my channel's a fair size, but it's not like Talarian size.
Well,
It's
no, but
not
I
even.
sort of feel like I've said this to other UK creators as well, and we've chatted. It's a funny old
Mm,
thing, UK content creation,
yeah,
because everyone, like, you have your Pleasant Kenobis and you have your Spice 8 racks,
yeah,
and obviously they're big, and obviously, like, Spice 8 is just,
yeah. He
they're not
blew up.
doing anything that anyone
Yeah,
else is doing, so it's like
yeah,
awesome. And obviously, like, Pleasant Kenobi just hit that right sort of tone, and like,
yeah.
but they've both kind of looked sort of across the pond at the US creators, and have kind of
Mm,
teamed up with them. Like, I know obviously you and Zuby, for
yeah.
example, like Magic
Yeah,
the
I've done.
Zuby.
Yeah, I've done a lot of cross content, but
Yeah.
yeah, like you say, they like Kenobi teamed up with the Professor,
Yeah.
which was a massive big thing, and it was only ever going to just grow the channel.
Mm.
Obviously, and he does a very different niche, same as Spice 8 Rat. Their niches
Yeah,
are
they have
so
their own
different.
voice, which is
Yeah,
really
they're
cool.
niche in a niche. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like Spice 8 Rack is just like completely different, and he could easily get away with one video a month.
Because it's just so
Yeah, uh,
amazingly him, and
yeah, that's the
it's really
thing.
good.
If I did
Yeah.
one video a month, I'd lose subscribers and views.
But I sort of
It's
feel
different
like
content.
the
Yeah,
UK scene is growing, and it's also growing in all different things. Like, it's growing with
yeah.
Commander content, it's growing with Twitch content and Arena content, it's growing with
Mm.
lore content, like, and people being interested in sort of like the non gameplay aspects of this game. Like, I often say with Nathan, it's like, we sometimes forget this is a card game, the way that we talk about it. Like, we talk about it like it's
Yeah,
like lore and history.
yeah. That's
It's
what I mean.
crazy.
It's got so many different factions for so many different people. You don't have to be just liking to go and play the cards. There's
Mm,
so many different things. You can like the art. You can, like you say, like the stories. You can just collect them just for collecting
mm.
reasons. You can just collect and have a collection, have a passion for. There's so many different arts. Some good thing, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing for my wallet and probably a lot of other people's, because you see something with amazing art, you're like, oh, I need to buy that type of pack. I need this type of pack,
Yeah.
which is good and bad. But um, I still, even all these years on, like if I open like a collector booster, I know they're not for everyone, but I still get excited about looking at those foils and looking at the art on them and looking at everything like that. And if it's a blue card, it's even better. You know what I mean? If it's a red card, it might go over my shoulder.
Well,
But
that's one of the big reasons, man, that I wanted to talk to you today. It's even in your like Twitter bio. I think, what is it? I got it up earlier today. It's
yeah,
the UK's
yeah,
resident blue mage is what you put in your
yeah,
Twitter handle. Yeah.
yeah,
So I've been trying to like nail down with a lot of different people who I'm chatting to, like, what they think, in their perception, their kind of flavor identity is like
mm,
for Magic the Gathering. Like, for Nathan, he just wants to steal everyone's stuff. If a commander is
yeah,
like a thief or like a mind mage or something, that's like his jam
yeah, yeah,
completely. I'm a black mage through and through, and I love life gain stuff, and we can talk about that later. But
yeah,
you are the blue mage, like,
yeah. Everyone knows me as that. It's just like
yeah,
blue.
which is kind of wild, because out of all the colors to be known for, why would you ever want to be known for being a blue mage? They're
Well,
scum,
that's the
aren't
thing.
they? Isn't that not the
I mean,
thing?
it can bring a bit of hate. I'm not going to lie. I've gotten a few Twitter, I wouldn't say arguments, but
No, really? On Twitter? Really?
yeah,
About
Twitter.
arbitrary nonsense?
The old, I actually think it rivals Reddit now, to be honest. Twitter, Magic Twitter, personally. But blue, as always. Now, so when I first started playing, going out, my first block was like M13 Return to Ravnica. So Return to Ravnica was my first booster.
Oh,
And
same. Nice one.
so
Yeah.
was it? Yeah, oh, brilliant. So the first Planeswalker open was Jace Architect of Thought,
Mm.
and I loved it. Always have done. Jace Jace was my favourite from then. So blue was always that, but blue is a colour that, I don't know, people just like to shit on. They like to hate on blue. If
Yeah.
there's a card to be banned, it's going to be blue. Blue seems, and I do think blue gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes. There's a I can never understand like a hatred toward. I mean, I don't like playing red, you know. But funny enough, even I'm a blue mage, I've got mono red in paper form. I've got mono red in modern, mono red in legacy, and mono red in pauper. Now that might just be a cost thing as well, just because you literally can change about 4 cards and have it in all formats. But no, blue to me is the way I like to play Magic. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and it can be frustrating. You look at my favorite cards from Return to Ravnica, like Jace Architect of Thought, Cyclonic Rift. It's just very much talked about a card. But I've always liked the aspect of controlling a board state and trying to win that way. Actually using. I'm not going to say other ways are bad or better or worse or anything like that, but I've never been like, oh, creature swingy tap down. I've never been that type of player. It never really. I've got decks like it, but it was never what appealed to me at the start. If you put 6 creatures on the board, I want to remove them. Do you know what I mean? And then I want to put my big creature on. And then just keep hitting you with 1 and protect it.
Well, I think so. I think obviously, like, I come out the gate saying like, "Why do you want to be a scummy blue player?" And like, it's obviously we all know, like my listeners know as well that like when me and Nathan, because Nathan's the blue player out of the two of us. Although I think over the years, like we've both leveled out in terms of the colors that we play, but he was always the blue mage out of the two of us. And there's always this argument back and forth. But obviously, that's all absolute nonsense. And like, if anyone does, some people do put like actual stock in it, but I like to give the community the benefit of the doubt that even with the ribbing of, oh, you're a blue player, or oh, you're a red player, or green players are like slightly less skillful at the game. Blue players are like,
well, they say that about mono red, don't they? They say mono red is an easy deck to play. Mono red is not an easy deck to play because you've got. It's all about your timing. It's all about when you do your spells, when you do your burn spells. If you're talking about the modern deck stuff like, it's not. It might seem simple to someone who's been playing Magic for 10, 20 years, but it does take some skill. There's no color I think that's easy to play. No, as in it all takes. So you're green, you're just going to put big creatures down and smash. Well, if you're playing against someone that's playing maybe Orzhov, like white and black, they might have Rafts. You've got to technically play those cards knowing that if you put all your cards down and empty your hand, you're probably going to lose.
Well, in EDH, especially, like my Orzhov deck, my Karlov deck, which gets, I mean, every time I slap it down with anyone who's ever played it before, it gets hated out instantly, and quite rightly so. Like, I have black and white counter spells in there, like Lapse of Certainty and Imp's Mischief, as well as Wraths and Removal. It's really blue. Like, it's really blue.
Manative.
All that kind of stuff. Like, we, Christian Gregory, who we all know, because another massive UK content creator on the CAG nowadays, I think I was talking to them about the way that they play Boros not too long ago, and they were saying that, like, they play Boros like a blue mage. It's all controlling the board, locking the board down, removing creatures, removing threats, and then piling a bunch of like gear onto Aurelia and swinging in for a kill because no one can defend against it. And I think, I think what we're learning with the game, especially from, like, to bring it back to like this podcast from a flavor point of view, is that there may be individual cards which are unbalanced, or this, that, and the other, that may be in colors, like like yes, your Cycrypts.
Colors are mixing now, aren't they? That's I think there's certain colors now can do things they shouldn't. Or not shouldn't, they couldn't do in the past. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, green is to me is like blue now.
For sure.
It can match me on card draw, which it never really could do. And now it can probably surpass me.
Absolutely. And so, like, with all this color balancing and all this kind of slight like tweaking of what colors mean, and the game evolves, I think colors are now much more of a philosophy than anything else. So if you're a blue mage, it's because you like to think a certain way rather than just like, oh, I just like Pact of Negation or whatever it is,
It's a way you like to play. Do you know what I mean? Blue, each color will have a certain way to play. If you look at like blue, going back to when I started Return to Ravnica and stuff like that, it really was a way of, they say in the law that it was bringing in law, as in law. It wanted to balance the table, but it wanted to control it in a way, which is why. The color I always mix with would bring in Azorius, because that's the way that I like to play Azorius. The white colors would bring like the controlling state. bringing like the piece to the table.
Mm.
It would, but then blue would do what it wants to do.
Yeah,
It
for
would
sure.
stop you from playing this. It would stop you from doing that. Meanwhile, you know, it was like the Senates, wasn't it? Because I do read up a little bit on it. There was different guilds, different that, and Azorius was always my go-to guild back then. So.
I mean, all of the blue guilds in Ravnica, if you look at the 4 blue guilds, if you've got Izzet, Azorius, Dimir, and Simic, right? So that's like all the other colours mixed in. The one conjoining thing, their blue pip, is information. It's, the Simic are the scientists, the Izzets are the experiment, like the inventors. You got the Azorius who are the lawmakers, and the Dimir who are like the spies and information brokers. But what they're all trying to do is all trying to gain as much like knowledge and control over their field as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not chaotic. They're not brash and brazen. Like, I mean, the Izzet maybe a little bit, but I think the reason Ravnica, especially the reason it brought in so many players in 2013, and the reason it continues to be a fan favorite playing with those 10 guilds, is because they so succinctly give that idea of these different colors and the different ways people can play across other color pairs and things like that. So I can absolutely
it was
see
more
where
of
you're
a
coming
then
from.
you literally chose your team. It was like a foot. I like football. It was like which team are you going to go for? And that is what I liked. I was like, well, a lot of my friends, like best mate who got me into Magic, he was more of a Simic player back then, and he got me in there. And then he said, "You're light blue." I know, but he said that before I even played Magic. Do you know what I mean? He was literally, he said, "You will light blue." He said, "I know you're going to be a blue mate," straight away, and he was right. But even if you go back to the other playing, original Ravnica when it was like Grand Arbiter, see that kind of card was just the perfect card. White spells cost less, blue spells cost less.
I can't defend you. I can't keep defending this notion if you're going to say things like that, mate.
But I've never made a Grand Arbiter deck because I play against my friend Zubies, and it's the most disgusting deck in the world.
I think the last time I played his Arbiter deck, it was on his stream, and we could only get us 3 because he had a bin out, and so it was us 2 versus his Arbiter deck, and it was just like. And he kept apologising, and I was just like, "Oh, it's fine, mate. Like, thank you for having me on stream, I guess."
It's an experience, isn't it? That's all.
You got to do it. You have to do it at least once
because you want to beat it. You want to take it down if you can, and it is just so hard. I mean, his deck is like my T-shirt. I mean, the viewers won't be able to see it, but I've got the Nope T-shirt.
Oh yeah, the Nope T-shirt with the blue pip on the O.
Because that is literally what blue is. It's Nope. That's you want to play that? Nope. You want to play that? Nope. And that is where the hate comes, because people want to play with their cards. That is why blue gets so much hate. Mm-hmm. Forgetting, you could be playing like you're a black mage. You could be playing the spell. It might reach the table, dead. Reach the table, dead. But they feel like I've actually got it on the board. So
well,
it's
that's
all right.
it, isn't it? Yeah.
It's like it's lasted 3 seconds, but I've got it on the board.
It is an interesting one, man. I think so. I've sort of changed and kind of evolved my thinking about it as I played the game. It's actually, weirdly enough, I was chatting about this very concept with my wife Holly this morning because she plays Magic, and she said, "Didn't you and Nathan always used to fall out when you played like 1-on-1 because he always used to play like blue and you used to play black?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely," because I think Nathan, when I first started playing with him, and it was kitchen table 60 card decks, it was all very counter spelly stuff. So that was like, okay, fine. And I think I got over that quite quickly because I was like, okay, it's like the blue removal. The thing that really grabs my nuts, to excuse the term, is when he plays steel effects in blue. Now that is the most, because that's on the table. I've got it on the table. I spent my mana. I'm about to play with it, and then the dickhead's like, "Oh no, Scarab God, do whatever that does." And then you're going to
get beat by it.
Yep. Then I get hit with it.
That you spent money on. That's on the table, and you're going to get beat down from it.
Yeah. But then how's that different? I play my Actress Oracle of Half-Truths deck. I mean, that deck, to be honest with you, is very unfocused, does a bunch of stuff. But in terms of its creature base is lots of clones. Yeah. That's not much different. No. It's you get to get your thing, but then I also get a Grand Arbiter. Do you know?
It's a thought process of how people think. Do you know, like, extra turns, a blue card, extra turns. People get angry about extra turns. They hate it. They want to do that. But Boros can take multiple combats, and it's never spoke about. But they will kill you with 3 extra combats. I've lost to like Aurelia or something like that, where it's hit me 3 times and I've been done. It's hit me twice and I've been done on commander
I
damage.
play a Ruhan deck. I
Yeah.
smashed someone out with an extra turn,
Yeah.
with an extra combat step spell the other day. Yeah.
I've played an extra turn and sometimes just managed to put another creature on the board. Do you know what
Well,
mean?
I think that's it. It's all the mentality of us, isn't it? And especially
Yeah.
like, so obviously 1-on-1 is a very different kettle of fish, like in terms
Yeah.
of 1v1 Magic. I'm playing multiplayer Magic. I know this is a little bit like the Rule Zero conversation, which I mean I never like talking about Rule Zero because it means different things to different people anyway, which is fine.
Yeah.
But this is a similar sort of sphere where you can wave a lot of things away with, well, it's how you play it, but it is very true.
Yeah.
Cyclonic Rift is an egregious card. It's
Yeah.
completely nuts. It's broken. It's busted. But if you're playing it at the time where the board needs it, or you're playing it to end the game, then
Yeah.
it's no different to an extra turn spell. Like again, Kristen, I don't want to keep invoking Kristen, but Kristen runs some land destruction in some of her decks because she goes, I play it when I want to end the game, and I don't want anyone to counter my stuff. So I'll play the land destruction, boom, I'll kill you with my radio. And it's like, yeah, cool, wicked, fine, do it.
Yeah.
It's mentality, and that's a big part of like leaning into things like the flavor of it or the function of something, is that you want to play it in the way that it's meant to be played, not just the most powerful spells again and again and again, like a legacy deck or a vintage deck or something.
And it's the funny thing, CC, obviously being Blue Mage, I am a control player, but I very rarely feel like I can play controlling commander because it's the thought of people just don't like playing it against it. So I always feel like I can't actually express a lot of my decks. I can't actually do what I want to do, which is why I build multiple decks for different powers, different this, different that. But, if I could play my type of deck every time, it would be a control deck, because at the end of the day, I look at it sometimes as you're using it, I might just do counter spell, but it might benefit all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always just, the Blue Mage wants to stop you playing what you want to play. It's like, hold on a minute, do you want this to come in? Do you want the Great Henge to come down and all of a sudden the green player's getting untold value, gaining life and all that? Or do you want me just to use my counter spell? Do you know what I mean? You need all different colours in Magic, and you need all different especially we're talking about, for commander as a base, you need the variety, because otherwise everyone will just play the same stuff, the same powerful spells, and then it gets boring. It's like you say, you've got to use stuff as you want to play. And for me, I want to play, I'd love to build Grand Arbiter, but who would play against me?
Blue does other things as well, though. Like, what are the other facets
the
of blue? If you have things like artifice or clones, or like polymorph like decks, you get lots of like transforming stuff. Does that appeal to you?
But my favourite deck is Touch Over, so it's Simic. So I am moving it really into Simic. I've got a Touch Over deck that is all about drawing cards. My favourite thing in Magic is drawing cards. That's what I love to do. That's what, I'm a Blue Mage, and now I can do it in green just as well.
Yeah.
But then I've got a Touch Over deck with lesser power that is sea monsters. So it's all blue sea monsters. There's no mana dorks. Every creature is a kraken, a whale, a crab, anything to do with sea. So, for me, blue, and personally, I love water, which always put me to blue as well. The collaboration between that and is another reason why I played blue at an early in my Magic career as well.
Sure.
And I love that, and I just thought I've never had a sea creatures deck, and I love Touch Over, but I can't always play my proper Touch Over deck.
Sure.
Because it's too powerful, So I want another deck. I've seen a lot of people do. They pick their commander. They might build 5 or 6 decks around that one commander because they love the commander, they love the colours, they love the guild of it. And for me, that's that. I could build 10 mono blue decks, but there's only there's different ways. Like you say, you can take a mono blue deck. You can actually do group hub. You can actually do draw spells, sea creatures, anything like that. But adding the green in just makes the deck a lot more viable and a lot more steady, I'd say. A lot more
smooth things out.
It's hard being mono blue unless you're playing to stay alive on a 4-player table, unless you're just recurring your Cyclonic Rift or something like that. It's pretty hard to stay alive because you just get done by smashy creatures.
I think out of all of the monocolors, it is a weird one. I've often looking at monocolor decks, and then you do find that sometimes the mono blue strategies are they're either so far ahead of like what anyone else is going. Like you have your Memnarchs or your Urza, like Master Artificer, and it's just
Yeah.
like, okay, this is just going to be like broken wide open, and
Yeah.
not just because of the mechanics on the commander itself, but because any of the things that you're trying to do, like like the things at your disposal, is going to be all counter spells and draw spells,
Yeah.
and then like stuff to do with your own strategy. So
Mm.
it's going to be a very intense deck. Whereas I find
Yeah.
all the other four colors, because they, in their own sort of mono identities, have a lot of different things going on. You can kind of have a more varied, like black decks. You can do 100 different kind of like mono black
Yeah.
decks, and red's getting a lot of different stuff going on now. Obviously, green's got like you could do elf tribal like all day, or you could do like ramp
Yeah.
and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, but
I
see,
think
like red
blue.
has like burn. It has in new standard mono red artifacts.
Mm,
It has different ways to do it. Like blue can do that, but not as well. Mono black is always strong. Like the last time mono blue for me was good was when we had Master of Waves and cards like that. There was a mono blue deck there with Thassa, and it was all about scrying. It was all about getting your devotion up and everything like that. And then just it was that was my favorite deck to play by far. I just loved it. But then the competition there was mono black. Like the big
sure.
competition at that time was mono black versus mono blue. And yeah, they were good times. They were good
Yeah.
times in standard.
I mean, your most recent commander deck that I've seen. So at the time of recording, we're in Kamigawa territory, Neon Dynasty. You just built an Ishin deck, right?
Yeah,
Which is
yeah.
Mardu.
Mardu cards. That's what I mean. I will play any colours. Like everyone expects me to bring the blue deck to the table, but I have to change things up because I just love, like Ishin for me is just is a very fun commander. Triggers everything like that. And say like I played it yesterday, and I mixed it in with extra combats. So with the Boros element, you can really get some like extra combats in there. And yeah, I sort of built it with a 30 creature. It played all right. It got a second place yesterday. Got beat by what was that? Orzhov one. Naomi.
Oh, from the new the uncommon legendary, right? From
Yeah,
Kamigawa?
yeah. So I got beat by that, and I've just seen my weakness in my deck is flyers straight away. So
It
I'm like,
always is.
yeah,
Every one of my decks is weak to flyers. I think I used
yeah,
to have a Broodaclad deck, which was all Thopters that would then turn into like 50 Wormcoil engines or something. That was the
yeah,
only deck I think I've ever built which has not been weak to flyers. But every single
yeah,
like just over the top, just hit me with a flyer, I'm dead instantly.
yeah, yeah. It was I was in such a strong position, and I played like the friendly way, not the blue mage way. And
I mean, is it friendly? Like, I'm a black mage, right? So that's, I mean,
yeah.
I've
Ishin
always,
is
I'm not,
not friendly.
yeah,
Ishin is you'll be able to build that mean.
yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I think it is. I think black's one of the most mean ones because it's not upfront at all. Like,
no,
I sit back so many of my decks, like Belb, Atris, Karlov, all these like black prominent with a side color. Really, all
yeah,
they do is they sit back, they'll put a little pinger on the battlefield, and like by turn 10, you're like, why have we all lost 30
yeah,
life across this game? And Andy's done
yeah,
nothing, and I'm sat there going, ha 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 ha. It's the most insidious thing, but people don't see it because Black's whole thing is about doing things kind of slightly alternative, a little bit sort of unseen, a little bit swervy. Like, oh yeah, I'll
yeah,
pay
yeah,
30 life to draw. Oh, I'm only drawing 30 cards with like Necropotence. And like, yeah, but you're drawing 30 cards. Like,
yeah, yeah,
do you know
yeah.
what I mean? So I love the fact that blue players and green in Commander as well tend to get hated on quite a bit or like get the attention because it means that us like black mages and us red mages kind of just sort of sit in the background
Yeah.
and just kind of
Oh,
do our
I
thing.
can have nothing board state, and I'll still be the first one to touch over.
Yeah.
And it's like all I want to do is draw cards. And it's like
Yeah.
very rarely, and they go, yeah, but then you're dropping Eldrazi. It's like,
But are they
like
wrong? Are they wrong?
It's like, well, it's whether you choose to drop
Yeah, now you're
it.
getting it. Now you're getting it. Exactly. Yeah.
Just because I can play it turn 4 doesn't mean that I'm gonna.
I mean, I play a Belb deck in
Yeah,
Golgari, and I'm turn 2ing like Wormcoil engines. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I
so
played a Rakdos deck the other day, and I was being ganged up on because I was playing Strefan. So Strefan is a very good one, and I had Blood Artist on the field, and I had another Drainer as well that did exactly the same thing. I can't remember what it is by the life of me, but it had exactly the same effect. And of course, there was an Orzhov player, Dimir player, but none of them could raff the board because if they raff the board, they all died.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, there was no way other than Exile to win. There was just no way. It's just like unless we can single spot removal the Blood Out of Day, we just die every time because I kept like the black does bringing in a creature,
Yeah.
sacking it to draw, sacking it to do this, sacking it to do that. It's just like oh here we go, 4 to you, 4 to you, 4 to you. And I was like, this is like a this is like a controlling blue way to play. This is what appealed to me about the deck, is that I'm controlling the board.
Mm-hmm.
The creatures are staying on the field when I want them to stay on, and they're leaving when I want to play. So it did appeal to me as a blue mage to like go and play this type of Rakdos deck because you like you say your feet. It just depends your philosophy and the way you want to play. Me as my type of deck is playing that way, is controlling the board state, and that kind of deck in Rakdos really does when you got sack effects and drain. Oh, it is lethal, and it's really hard to beat as well. It's really hard. So,
there's a couple of articles that Mark Rosewater has written. I mean, obviously Mark Rosewater has written everything about this game 100 times over because he has to they have to force him to keep writing articles. He's like, I've already written everything about this game, but he's done 2 articles specifically on Blue called True Blue and True Blue Revisited, and I think it was True Blue was like 2003 and Revisited. Have I got the tab open? I do. Oh, True Blue Revisited, I think was 2015. So he kind of came back to it. But in both articles, he's talking about Blue, and it's about control and memory, mind, thought, academics. And it's this idea that Blue is trying to, like, whether it's through, trickery or illusion or like knowledge, but is always trying to create a perfect system, right? And so the way that you're talking about like wanting to play Rakdos but having things under your control, you want to draw the cards so you have all the information. Your favorite guild from Ravnica is the Azorius, who want to control with like authority. Like it's just without even sort of grandstanding about it and just being very honest about all the different ways you want to play, your identity as a player in multiple formats is just so clear, and that's really great. That's a really nice thing to sort of witness.
I like the way that's what I mean. I'll play any color, but I will play a way I want to play it.
Yeah,
that, like you say, that is the way I want to do it. I will deliberately make my builds the blue way, whether I'm playing Rakdos, whether I'm playing whatever Selesnya. If you some of my videos on my channel, I do Selesnya land control, as a deck in standard, because it's a blue way of playing Selesnya. You can control, you can play different ways with like the same thought of the color you want to play.
Yeah,
you can, if you're a red mage, you can play aggressive. You could play mono blue. You could be mono blue flyers, and it's a red way of playing because you're aggressive. You're just getting the creatures on the board and swinging. The blue element comes in when you just protect them, but it's a very aggressive deck. Azorius aggro for quite a while in the last couple of years has been quite a good deck, and it's a different way. It's funny. It's a deck that I never played because it's not the way that I want to play. It doesn't. I can play, but it doesn't. If I have a choice, I don't choose to play that way, So
that's so cool. That's so interesting. I mean, color theory is like there are other content creators that have done their entire channels devoted to color theory, and like it's just it's such a cool way to be. And I think whilst I am a black mage, again my 2 favorite decks to play at the moment, my 3 favorite decks to play at the moment actually, is Tovalar Werewolves, which because I just always want to build werewolves, and then the other 2 are Ruhan of the Fomori, which is the sort of random Voltron commander, and oh my gosh, Zavai Thunderconductor.
All right, okay.
Which is it Spellslinger deck. But the way that I like to play is I like doing sort of affect all players at once, or the chance to affect all players at once attitudes of playing. So Zavai, obviously, if you hit the 10 mana value spell, will deal 10 damage at random to someone, but then I'll get value off the top of that. Ruhan, you like load him up with like weaponry, and then he'll hit another player randomly, but everyone's involved on the table. My actress deck is you're making deals with everyone, or everyone gets a vote in something that happens. So that's what I like in multiplayer formats, that if one thing happens, like it all kind of scatters around the whole table rather than just being on my own board state. So I think, I don't know what color that is necessarily. I guess it's black because there's a lot of like blood artist effects, but I guess that's quite a black way of playing all those things, because it's like you just never quite know who's going to get hit with this thing. It's really interesting. Is Ravnica, I'm going to move a little bit on from color theory and just talk about like your broader sort of, I guess, like love for the game in terms of its visuals and its flavor a little bit, because it's not something you yourself always engage with. Is Ravnica your favorite playing because it's the first one that you went to?
Yeah, and it's just because like like you say, the flavour of some of the cards, what the cards did. I just loved, it probably is a part of it because it was my first one and it's the first that sort of guided me through, but it did guide me through the way I've played for the whole of my Magic, life. So, I didn't just pick, but Jace, like I said, was the first Planeswalker I pulled from a pack. But I already liked blue already. But it just so happens that, that was it. And, all Jaces I like Jace Belair. I just like all Jaces. I did build a mono blue Jace deck. It was just stupid. But cards like Sphinx's Revelation and when you add the white into it as well, Return to Ravnica for me was very much like an Azorius sort of build at the time for me. And I basically just loved what the cards did. There was a lot of different cards in there, aggressive cards like Rakdos of Lord of was it Rakdos Lord of Riots? Was it?
Lord of Riots was the Rakdos card
which is there was a lot of big swingy creatures there, and it was just a really fun sort of build. And I think it's been, like you say, I think it's popular for a lot of people. And I wish we could just return again. Basically, I wish
you've been there 3 times. Like, what do you want?
I'd keep staying there. You got dragons, you got Niv Mizzet, you got everything like that. I mean, what don't you want? Do you know what I mean?
Well, this year coming up, I think this entire year for the sets that we have are like, it's almost like each set is in that same sort of sphere, because you've got Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, which if you're looking at the setting is all like a big cityscape, and whether you're like into the sci-fi element or not, like is a different issue. But again, it's very like modern era, like how Ravnica is essentially just a big old city, like it's Prague, isn't it? Essentially, like that's essentially what they're trying to do. And then you've got Streets of New Capenna, which is going to be Chicago meets New York, like East Coast, like America. That's also going to be high fantasy cityscape. And then we're going back to Dominaria for 2 completely different sets. And Dominaria is again just the high fantasy, like mush everything together, which is something that Ravnica kind of pulled from. Like, are you excited for this year? Like, is there anything going to stand out for you?
I mean, I did like Dominaria. As a when it came out, I was quite a fan. I bought a load of product of Dominaria.
Yeah,
it had some really good
really
cards
solid set. Really
solid.
Solid.
We had Teferi, didn't we? Was it the 5 mana Teferi? There were some good cards, and I did like the Planeswalker aspect of it. I do like Planeswalkers a lot. So
War of the Spark must have been right up your street.
War of the Spark was just absolutely amazing. Some of but I don't know, the uncommon Planeswalkers, I know they only tick down. They were quite aggressive. They were, especially like Narset and cards like that. It did sort of bring I think that was the most, everyone was so happy when it left standard War of the Spark. It just had some like baby Teferi. It just had some.
I'm laughing because that's the most blue way to approach the Planeswalker design. We've just spoken about how you like things. Like, I don't like being aggressive. I like sort of sitting back and controlling the board, and that's what Planeswalker design is. Along with Sagas, they're a very passive card type, and you're getting upset because they made Planeswalkers too proactive.
This is the problem, mate. It just brought. It just brought a different atmosphere when you played. People just, I don't know, they just weren't enjoying it. And it shows, you know what I mean? And but I do love the Sagas. I love these new Sagas.
They're the best card type I think they've ever done.
The Saga that turns into a creature, you just can't beat that. It's just so good. It's a control player's dream that you can actually just have like 3 lore effects happen. And then you'll get with a creature. One of my favourite ones is that there's an uncommon, I can't remember the name of it, uncommon blue one, that turns into a 3/3 flyer that when you play a spell, opponents can't play a spell of the same mana. I mean, that is just blue, in it. That is, the first lore counter is return a creature or artifact to owner's hand. The second is get one back out your graveyard so you get your artifact back. And then it turns into this, and then you just, chuck off of 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana spells. Mono white can't play a spell. It's brilliant. They can't do anything to your next turn. And you just keep recurring it, and you just control that board state. You're just like, no, sorry, you ain't playing any spells. your 3 mana deck. It's not going to happen. But yeah, it's Yeah, I do like those new sagas. They're sweet.
Yeah, they're very, very cool. I just think they blend it so well between. I mean, we do whole episodes on the damn things. Like they
Yeah,
blend the kind of the flavor aspect of the narrative of the game, which you could choose not to engage with at all. But then they put it on a card, and like you're engaging with it without even knowing. And also functionally, they're excellent for almost every format they appear in. Like,
yeah.
yeah, just such excellent design.
And they've made them help, like like one of the white sagas lets you search for land,
Mm.
which is what white as a color generally struggles with.
Hmm.
Not as bad as what people make out it does, but
I think
I
they've done a
think
good job of balancing it over the
yeah,
past 2
it's
years.
white is a lot better than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And but paying like I think it's a three mana saga,
Mm.
search for planes, put in your hand, scrying. What's white scry? Well, that's blue, isn't it? It's a weird. It's such a good card, and then it flip into a. I think it flips into a 3/4 that when it attacks or blocks makes a 1/1 or something as well.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, wow, do you know what I mean? It's like they're cool. These sagas are just the coolest things ever. They really are.
We're only going to get more of them as well. Like they're going to find a way to put them in each sort of set, and they'll keep changing the design. I mean, the last episode, so the episode that we're recording now will come out maybe a month after the Sagas episode, but we did a whole episode on Sagas for Kamigawa, and it was just again they've changed it up, like with the flipping them into a creature thing. But each time they bring them out, they have their own sort of flavor within themselves, and I'm just waiting for the time that when we go to Streets of New Capenna, we've got like newspaper reels or like it's going to be newspaper articles as sagas telling the story of the demon like gangs that are going to be like taking over the streets of New Capenna and stuff. But yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
for me, the sagas are just I like them because they got appeal to it. There's like different modes, different functions on all of them. They can fit into, like you say, multiple different decks.
Mm.
I'll start putting some in commander decks as well. I will do, just because I think they're valued. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I know, when you commander list, even if you're building, but they'd be great for budget decks. Budget decks, they'd be perfect for, get like get a land, get a bit of scry, turn it into this creature that just spits out other creatures.
Anything with multiple modes. I suppose the downside to sagas, although the downside to their design. This is me not talking about lore at all. This is me like trying to my hand at card design talk. But it's the fact that obviously you can't, outside of really niche cases, you can't really control what effect they have. It will be this one, then it'll be this one, then it'll be this one, turn after turn. And that's kind of like their downside in their design. Yeah. But I don't know anyone who gives a shit about that. Like they're just value all the way through.
But there's plenty of ways like this. I think there's a couple of creatures when they get to there's ways you can just return them to your hand and do the lore again.
Or like I think there's a couple of creatures that stick lore counters back on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can speed it up as well, like you say. But there's one that just says return it to your hand. It's like, right, I've done the first two, I'll do them again. Thanks. I'll just return it and play it again. I'll go and get that basic land again. I'll scry again. And it's just like, yes, come on.
You're finding ways to control sagas, even though there are things that just kind of run themselves.
That's what I want to do. I want to, I want double value. That's what I want. That's
so Magic as a game has changed quite a bit. Like we were just speaking about like the fact that all these different sets coming up this year are all kind of very modern-y. Like I don't necessarily like dwelling on things that we sort of think are like terrible for the game, I hate the fact that they're doing this for the game or whatever. But like it's fair to say that Magic has changed its face, introducing things like sci-fi and things into the sphere.
Yeah.
What's something that you wish they would do now that they're kind of opening up their fantasy? Or do you want to go back to something that's maybe just like Eldraine or Lorwyn? Like, where do you want to see this game going from a visual point of view? Because you have to play this game on things like Arena and like playing Commander. Like, you see the marketing for it every day. Like, what's the visuals that you want to see in the game, like moving forwards maybe to 23, 24?
I mean, progressing the game, I'd like to see more options on like stuff like Arena. I would like to see more on there. I wish they wouldn't make it so hard, to get the good-looking cards, to get all this. I wish they wouldn't make it so hard. They make such a big thing about the art and everything like that. But I understand it's a business and everything like that, but they make it quite hard to have a pretty deck or have this or have that on Arena. Just talk about Arena because I do a lot of Arena content.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
It's very hard to build the decks on Arena. It's very hard to do that. The system is just just not great. Basically,
And that's like half the game. Like, the reason people like playing paper Magic is because they're essentially playing, the game pieces are little bits of artwork. Like, you want them to look good. So,
and I just wish they'd take more time in the cards they produce. You know, I read an article the other day, and I must admit I didn't agree with it, saying that, you know, Standard is dying. Standard is not dying. If Standard dies, parts of Magic for me will die, because you need Standards, you need the new sets, you need people to get hype, you need people to, you know, look at this set and go, yeah, I want to buy this, because without Standard happening, it just doesn't happen. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Standard is, I mean, Commander is. I don't know. I don't. Is Standard or Commander the most played? I wouldn't know, because if you play, you know, if their figures are true on Arena, you know, 3 million plus play it. It's massive.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you need that to look good. You need it to, you know, that's what I just hope that they would have the program of that going forward, going well, especially for, I need it, you know, for content creator. I'd love to do Commander content all day long, but you know, it's not how I started, and it's so hard to change people once you've been doing something for so long. You know, that you do get pigeonholed. It's, if you do different stuff, is, you know, I've always done it, it's different. But I would like to go back to being a Ravnica. I would like to go back to more towards like having these guilds differently. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like they don't do it now, because they feel people might, Magic has changed and evolved, that people might start taking, oh, this is that team against this team, it's this team against that team. Where, you know, for me, when I started Magic, I wanted to be part of the colours.
Yeah.
I wanted to be Azorius because, or, you know, a blue mage, and you moved into Azorius because they did what they did in there. And I do feel like sometimes, although it's nice to have the cards do multiple things now, for me, I do like traditional as well. I mean, a lot of people probably won't agree with me, but
well, I mean, there's definitely a contingent of people, say, who played back in things like Shards of Alara, for example, where it's like all 3 colors, and then, you know, when we went to Tarkir, and it was the wedges and the shards are slightly different, but people were referring to things as like Sultai as opposed to Bug. Do you know what I mean? So there's always going to be like generations of people that will refer to things slightly differently and will always want their kind of way forwards. But that's not to say that you're wrong in wanting that. It's just it is recognizable. Like, people do want to kind of connect with the way that they kind of grew up with the game, or like entered the game, and the flavor they sort of,
because you've got no problem with the game evolving into doing stuff and stuff like that. But I did like the fact that, you know, we'd sit at a table, the Dimir mage would be there, I'd be here a bit. I know you still get that kind of, because everyone played their favorite, but I felt like Magic and the way it was advertised and the way it was like, you know, choose your guild. I mean, it was like, choose which path you want to go down. I liked that aspect of it. That was
how did you feel then about? So obviously, like, you might not, the flavor, I actually don't know. The flavor of it might not have been your cup of tea, but in terms of that ethos, how did you feel about Strixhaven?
Strixhaven for me, I didn't like the set.
No, really.
It wasn't. I wasn't a favorite of it. I don't know. It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me. Strixhaven.
Because they made a big deal about like choosing your school. Do you know what I mean? And then the color pairs and all that kind of thing. I just
felt it was too gimmicky.
Oh, okay.
I thought, you're trying to make something like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know. I've got no problem with other stuff coming into Magic. I know they like, you know, the different layers and Street Fighter, and bringing other things in, because they're trying their best to sort of expand the game, but they've got to do it in a way that just doesn't exploit the game, and it feels like you don't exploit your clientele. You know,
well, I suppose those
IPs,
they're coming in, as you say, in things like Secret Lair, or now they're moving into more special editions. We do have things like D&D and Lord of the Rings will be sets that are maybe a bit more tied to the core of Magic. But I guess, I suppose is what you're saying, that you don't want to see sets that are so nakedly just trying to be something else with a Magic veneer.
Yeah. Yeah. If I want to play Harry Potter, I'll go and play Harry Potter. You know, Strixhaven was like that. And if you look at, you know, I do a video series of cards like under $1 for Commander and stuff like that. And so I'm always looking for like cards that might have dropped in that. So when I'm always looking through the cards, like the lowest price set is Strix. There's no value in it. people didn't like it. There's just nothing in it. The way they went with those cards, whether it was just what they put on the cards, but it just for me it just wasn't liked. As a majority, it seems that way anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
But for that, I don't know. Sometimes I think like they're trying so hard to make the cards so different and weird that it's losing what the magic is sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
This is why I'm so interested in what's coming up this year, because if you, again, the 4 sets, Kamigawa, Capenna, Dominaria United, and then Brothers War, which is a Dominaria again.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 sets with Kamigawa, I mean, obviously Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is like OG Kamigawa, but obviously it's still, it's very much its own revamp. Capenna is obviously so clearly like gangsters and like mafia sort of style thing, or at least that's what it looks like from the early stuff. So those 2 sets are very high concept, like Strixhaven.
Yeah.
But then they're going right back with Dominaria United and the Brothers War. They're doing a whole standard legal set in a past, like narrative wise, like an event that's already documented. It's not like a progression of something. It's like they're going, no, we're going to tell this little story in a standard set. So it's going to be the most magic thing ever, potentially. Like, I'm really interested to see it.
I mean, I love gangster stuff and everything like that. So that is a set that might appeal to me. I don't mind. I've got no problem with different stuff coming in, but I think when it's such a blatant rip-off of something else, like the School of Mate, that was such a blatant rip-off. Do you know what I mean? Because people then were like, hold on a minute, I'm Hufflepuff, so I've now got to go to whatever colours they are. Is it, or whatever they are? Yeah,
sure.
It swaps. Oh, I'm Slytherin, so I'm going to play Golgari. You know what I mean? It's just, to me, that was that. No, that's like you say, make your own take on something. Don't rip something completely off, because everyone saw it and was like, that's Harry Potter. Do you know what I mean? That's all they thought. That's all I thought straight away.
Yeah.
It was like, and then I lost interest a little bit, even though it had some really cool stuff in there. Yeah. I did buy. The only Strixhaven I did buy was a lot of the Japanese cards and stuff. I bought a lot
from the Mystical Archives. Yeah, that was great.
Because you could pull some. I did like the Mysticals. For me, that was the best thing about it. Do you know what I mean? That was from an art point of view. I know a lot of people are like, too many arts, too many this, too many that. But I got some very cool counter spells. I got some lovely older cards, Blue Sun Zeniths. I got this and that from it, and that was the only thing from that set that really, and that's why I bought a lot of it, because of that. So maybe they got it right, maybe they didn't, but as an actual set and my thinking behind it, I wasn't a fan as a rule.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, like, people like what they like and like what they don't like. Like, I think looking back on it, I think from like recent sets in recent years, I'm not a big Zendikar fan personally, which is like something that Magic players and Vorthos is also especially like we're meant to love Zendikar. It's the most Magic set possible, and I'm just like, And I think we were reviewing Zendikar Rising at the time, like, and doing all of our usual sort of lore episodes and storyline episodes, and it's the Zendikar set that I've liked the most out of all the Zendikar sets we've been there. But it's just Zendikar just isn't for me, like, as a set. But that's the beauty of the game. It's the literal multiverse with a ever expanding card pool of like 300, 400 cards every 3 months in a different setting. And as much as I'd love for them to stick around on a plane maybe for more than one set, the fact that they do bin through like settings at a rate of 1 to 2 sets a year means that you're always going to have something that you like. There's going to be things that you don't like, but also, there's so many ways to do the game.
You can skip stuff these times because there's so much. There's so much coming out that one part of what they bring out is going to appeal to you. Like Dominaria will appeal to me because it had sagas in already. I like the sagas that were in Dominaria, and now obviously we're in the saga, theme again with Neon Dynasty. You can see that we're going to get more. And if we'd had, I don't know, cards like Phyrexian Scriptures and stuff like that turned into creatures, it could have been really good. Do you know what I mean? All that stuff could have turned into some really, amazing creatures from the lores and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to having that, and then just basically having more, kind of lore decks like that. You probably will be able to make. I used to make. Do you know? Actually, thinking about it, I've completely forgot about this. There's a channel where they did lore and everything like that. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Big American channel they were, and they asked me to do deck techs, and I used to do lore deck techs.
Oh, that's cool.
That's going back about 3 years ago. I think it was probably about 3 years ago.
Magic Arcanum?
Nah, his name's Simon. Simon.
Oh, are you talking about EtherHub, Cybin?
Yeah, Simon.
Yeah.
So I used to do some deck text for him, but his viewers just wouldn't take the change of, even though they were lore decks.
Mm.
So, and I tell you, it was quite hard building. So I'd choose like a plane or something like that, and just build a deck based around what happened in the story and everything like that. And yeah, maybe something got to start up again. Just now it's. But actually, yeah, it might give me another idea. See, now
It's going to be. I'll tell you what. It's going to be easier nowadays to do it because the way that
yeah,
they've integrated the kind of function and flavor of cards these days, it's almost like every deck is a flavor deck. Like you could
yeah,
so easily, and the amount of lands that you have, the amount of variety of things. Like I mean, even 3 or 4 years ago, I think someone was at my LGS guy about 2-3 years ago was like, I want to build a Weatherlight. It was when Dominaria first came out. It was like, I want to build like a Weatherlight crew deck. How can I go about this? And it's like, well, you have these options and blah blah blah. And then we started going, oh fuck, they've even got like the lands from Dominaria all have like the Weatherlight ship on the
yeah,
lands now because they've like integrated it in. Whereas if you try to do that like in EDH, especially if you tried to do
yeah,
that like 5 years ago, you'd be
yeah,
struggling and like kind of going, oh well, this
yeah.
Sakura Tri-Builder can sub in for this character. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now it's
Thinking
just no,
about what it is
it's
as
so
well, it
much.
probably was about 5 years ago, to be fair, as well, to
Mhm.
be honest, because actually, I lose all track of time. I was thinking it was before I even moved over this way, so it's quite a long time ago.
Well, that's
But
wild. I mean, I was looking on your YouTube channel. I was looking through the different playlists that you have because I was
yeah,
like, I'm very familiar with a lot of the stuff you've done recently, but I was
yeah,
like, you've been going for a while, and
yeah.
there's like 3 videos of a playlist of like you and someone else doing heads up commander games, and like the camera is just like across the two like board
I
states.
started doing all that stuff. That was that's still one of my most popular videos.
Yeah,
So going back there, they had like 30,000-40,000 views.
yeah,
I started off doing like the paper commander and paper magic games. When Star City Games started doing it, that's when I started doing it, and that's how I started my YouTube channel. My friends, oh, sorry if you can hear that. It seems like an ice cream van.
Oh mate, that's so funny that you've just said that. That's my absolute bugbear on this channel. Like there's episodes from about like summer last year of me
Yeah.
screaming out my window at like the 4 vans that pull past me every day.
Oh, funny. Yeah, so I started doing them. That's how I first started doing it. So the friends that got me into magic, they used to come around my house and we used to film it over the top. Yeah.
That's so wild. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Nice.
good times they were. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think that's just about our hour, man. Like, thank you so
Cool.
much for coming on and talking to me. Like, it's again, this is like this is such a different style of conversation that I've had with like so many other people, and it's just amazing that we can have these kind of chats, and it's the same game. Like, that's what is always just so like
Yeah, yeah.
amazing to me. Like, I've talked more about gameplay and like card design in this episode than I think I have done in the past 102 episodes of this podcast. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
No
Like
worries, man.
it's so cool and it's also weird that I can talk about it. Again, I think I forget that I
Yeah,
do actually play this game as well, like as well as
yeah.
talking about the artwork and stuff.
I try my best with a bit of lore, everyone. So don't hate me too much. I try my best.
No, not at all. No, well, again, it's like I've said this to so many people. Like you play this, you can't play this game without attaching to something. If all you wanted to do
Yeah,
was numbers, you'd be doing something completely
yeah,
different. Like
yeah,
everyone has a lore story to tell, which is
yeah.
exactly why I want to talk to different people. Like it's
Yeah,
amazing.
and that's the thing. And sometimes you don't even know you have a lore story, but you say it,
Yeah,
and it's there. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like there is a way you play, and it's because you've read into a different, the path of that lore, and that's how I started, and still do the same.
I'm dreading whatever Urza card they dig out for Dominaria United or Brothers War because I just know if it's
Oh,
anywhere near blue, you're just going to be
I'm
you're
gonna
going to be
love it.
slamming
I
that
might
down
have
on
to.
the table.
I took Memnarch apart, and Memnarch might have to come back out against
Oh
me.
God, no!
It's because of spell tape, and I literally just like your most hated thing. I literally just stole the board, turned
Yeah,
everything. Was it liquid elemental or something like? Turned everything into artifacts, and just like, yeah, I'll have that one. I'll have that one. But it's not viable over spell table, so
no,
you're safe.
thank goodness. Well, like Total, thank you so much for coming on. Obviously we've spoken a lot about your content. What are the big sort of channels and things that you've people can find you on? What's your latest kind of grind of content that you're doing?
So yeah, YouTube is. I think we're literally about 15 subs away from going to 13,000. So we're just going over on YouTube. So I'm going to have that's my main goal, to get to 20,000 at the end of the year. That's my magic goal if I can.
Yeah.
I stream on Twitch as well. Find me on not TikTok. I don't do TikTok. I do Instagram. That's the one.
That's the one.
Instagram and Twitter as well. So you can find TOTALmtg everywhere. But yeah, YouTube is my main passion. But I do stream Arena and Commander on Twitch as well. So,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've guested on that stream many a times.
but I've got to get you back on again, because I've literally started up again. I gave it like a 4-month gap, and I've just started up again. So I've done a couple of episodes, and I'm getting back in the swing of it again now.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I've had a little bit of a break from streaming Commander games, just because life ebbs and flows, doesn't it? And with UK opening back up after COVID.
Yeah,
you left your job at the Natural History Museum. You went.
Yeah, so we bought a house, me and the wife, and we've moved quite far away from the museum, so I couldn't stay there. And at the moment I'm full-time content creating. So
wild.
I know. Yes, it's I want to go back to work. It's a lot easier. But I did like 5-6 videos a week, and try and 2-3 streams a week as well. So just trying to grind it out, and I've been doing it a long time, because it's always been more of a hobby and something I just enjoyed doing. But now it's. Well, I've been trying to make it for ages, but it's I'm putting more time into it while I've got the time. And
you're getting there, man. Like I've definitely noticed an uptick in like your sort of work with like WOTC and like the different companies that they have working with, like Wizards EU and stuff like that. You're definitely like on the radar there for sure.
Yeah, it's going well this year. Yeah, last year I've done some videos with them as well, and done a few live streams. I was a mentor for this really big chess player. She's like a massive. That was scary. She's like streaming like 13,000 people watching. I was like, oh my, I'm used to maybe 100 at most.
Yeah.
When you got that many, you're like, oh, please don't. Please, I'm supposed to be good at this game. Don't let her make a mistake. I was like, oh. But I've had some good opportunities through them, and they've been very kind to me. So, but it's only because like supporting the video, it's just grown that way from them, and helped out. And
yeah. Well deserved. Yeah. Well, if you want to check out our stuff, I mean, you're listening to this podcast. I don't know why you need me to tell you like where we are. You can find us at MT Flavoring. My personal Twitter is at Andy Manface. Nathan's personal Twitter is at the Fox in the Moon. I'll plug it for him because I just love that Twitter handle name. Yeah. Emails go to at MT Flavoring. And well, Total, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries. Can't wait till we sling spells again. And now that I know more of the backstory of why you do the things you do, I don't know, maybe I'll show more leniency. Maybe I'll be a bit more merciless.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Maybe more anti-dex.
Oh, he plays Azorius. Excellent. I know exactly how to get around this. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. All that remains for me to say is this has been Magic the Flavoring.